Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is time to bring on the love and the thunder as we just got the official trailer for Thor Love and Thunder. It was about a month ago when we got the teaser trailer, which was absolutely amazing, and obviously I'm so hyped for this film. This is by far my most anticipated film of the rest of 2022. I love Thor Ragnarok, so I'm so excited to see what Taika Waititi and Chris Hemsworth do now with Thor Love and Thunder. And this trailer was really interesting. It had kind of a couple big reveals. We got our first look at Gorr the God Butcher. We got to see Natalie Portman's Jane Foster Mighty Thor in action here. And also there was this really interesting shot at the end of the trailer that we're really going to go in depth on. But first, let's talk about this poster as well. So we got our official poster. We got a couple teaser posters earlier, but this is our first official big main poster for Thor Love and Thunder, and this is just beautiful. Like, it's so vibrant and colorful, and I just love it. I mean, you have Thor and Mighty Thor right front and center there. You got Korg and Valkyrie, and then just kind of like the looming presence, like the shadow of Gorr the God Butcher in the background right there. It just looks awesome. Of course, also the goat boat there as well. It looks awesome, and honestly, this is a poster I'm definitely gonna like actually buy a physical copy of and hang up on my wall because it is that beautiful. Like, look at this thing. It is just a beautiful poster. But guys, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this and break down the official trailer for Thor Love and Thunder. So we start off the trailer in the same location we saw in the teaser trailer, which seems to be the same location where the Guardians of the Galaxy are going on their mission to take down those bad guys and looks like rescue some hostages. And so the beginning of this trailer is narrated by Korg, where he's telling these kids about the story of the Viking god Thor. So we're getting kind of this voiceover narration from Korg, and you get to see some other moments, a lot of stuff we saw in the teaser trailer, where you can see Thor, he's wearing his Ravager uniform, his very 80s looking outfit right there. He's teaming up with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Again, looks like they're saving those hostages, and he is just being the God of Thunder. And, you know, just this great, beautiful shot right here, just summoning the lightning with Stormbreaker. You see him trying on the Ravager jacket, and just the Guardians looking at him. Korg is there as well, and him just being like, oh yeah, I'm a badass. And then, of course, as we saw in the teaser trailer, he returns home to New Asgard with Korg as well. Now, this shot does kind of look like Stakar. No, not Stakar. That's a character. Sakaar, the actual planet that we saw in Thor Ragnarok, where the Grandmaster had his contest of champions, just judging by the debris we see in the background there. But then Korg is telling us about how, you know, Thor, he started training. He went from dad bod to God bod, and you can see, you know, getting those big Chris Hemsworth muscles. I love how he's using the Benatar to actually, you know, do his workout. At least I believe that's the Benatar. That does look a little different than the last time we saw it, so maybe it's gotten some upgrades, or maybe it's a completely new ship for the Guardians. But then we get introduced to Mighty Thor as Thor. He's fighting some crazy shadow creatures, which I believe are going to be the creatures under the control of Gorr the God Butcher. And all of a sudden, he, as Korg is saying, he regains his mantle as the mighty Thor and the one and only Thor. And all of a sudden, Mjolnir just comes back to him. As you can see, it is kind of cracked because this is the reforged version of Mjolnir. And he's super excited, like, whoa, I'm not even going to question this. Mjolnir's back. My baby has come home to me. And then all of a sudden, he is not the one and only Thor, because then we see that Jane Foster is making her big return as the mighty Thor. Now, we do know also that in this movie they're going to be exploring the same storyline from the comics, where Jane Foster actually develops cancer, and then once she becomes worthy, every time she uses Mjolnir and kind of becomes the mighty Thor, that then kind of reverses her chemo treatments and just puts her in even worse conditions. So it'll be really interesting to see that storyline play out in this film. And obviously Thor is super excited and super confused also, like, you know, first of all, like, oh hey, it's Jane, my ex-girlfriend. Also, she's Thor now, apparently. And also, as you can see, Thor's wearing this crazy golden eagle hawk helmet, which we've seen a lot of looks at in merchandise, action figures, and all that stuff. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm not a big fan of it. Seeing it on the action figures, I was already worried. I was like, ooh, that doesn't look good. And then seeing in the trailer, it still doesn't look the greatest. I mean, it looks a little better, but it just looks kind of big for his head, kind of, and the CGI isn't really great. There's a couple spots in this trailer where the CGI is kind of meh, but we do get this meeting between Thor and Mighty Thor, which is interesting because I thought that he'd be wearing this helmet and this crazy gold outfit for like the final battle at the end of the movie, but apparently he has this more towards the beginning. And then we get that great Marvel Studios logo right there. And Korg and Thor are in what I believe is the kind of home office of New Asgard, because we know Valkyrie, she is now the king of New Asgard and has been kind of turned into like a tourist attraction, and she's become almost like a governor of kind of like a town. We get this great action shot of Mighty Thor doing the superhero landing pose, and Jane has said something about like, oh, what's it been, like 3-4 years? And then Thor, as we know, especially after seeing Avengers Endgame, he has been super duper obsessing over her, and he knows the exact thing, like, oh, it was like 8 years, 7 months, and 36 days, and something like that. And she's like, oh yeah, that's not creepy at all, but yeah, I missed you too. And so then we get to see that they are going to Olympus to visit Zeus, played by Russell Crowe. So we get some great looks at him later in the trailer. But Valkyrie's kind of like, oh, are you starting to develop feelings for Jane again? And he's like, what? No, totally not. But just given the fact that, you know, the movie is called Love and Thunder, and Taika Waititi teasing that there is going to be a big romance element throughout this film, I feel like we are going to have those two reunite and get back together. And I really hope they do, because I love their relationship. I think they were a great couple in those first two Thor movies, and I was really sad to see that, like, oh, they just broke up off screen when they were such a great couple. So to see them come back together, especially now on equal playing fields, both as superheroes, I really hope we get to see that happen. And again, like I said, Thor's just trying to play it off like, no, I'm not developing feelings or anything. I'm cooler than that. Again, looking like they are on Sakaar here as well, where Thor first met Valkyrie. And then we are introduced to our main villain of this film, Gorr the God Butcher, played by Christian Bale, which didn't even seem like Christian Bale in this. I mean, it looked like Christian Bale, but like the voice and everything, it was disturbing. Like, we've seen a couple looks at him from merchandise and action figures and stuff, but actually seeing him in this trailer, this guy is terrifying. You can see right here that he is summoning all black the Necro Sword, which is actually what Hela's sword in Thor Ragnarok was based off of, because obviously they didn't plan on doing Thor 4 with Gorr the God Butcher, so they have a different design from what they used in the comics. And in the comics, this is a sword actually created from a symbiote. It was actually gifted to Gorr by Null, the god of the symbiotes, which of course connects to Venom and all that stuff. Now, I highly doubt we're getting any of that stuff, because, you know, Venom is over at Sony with all the Spider-Man characters, so it'll be a different take on this, but still going to be really interesting. And here we have our first official real look at Christian Bale as Gorr the God Butcher, and like I said, he just looks terrifying, like absolutely terrifying. Bald Christian Bale with like dry skin and like scars and like super paleness and stuff, and he looks disgusting. He really does look disgusting, but in a cool way. And you get introduced to this plot point that he is here to kill all the gods because he feels wronged by the gods. In the comics, it's actually done that he kind of, his planet is set to go extinct, and he kind of prays to the gods for them to be saved, and because they never do save him and his family, he then vows to butcher all the gods for revenge on his family or something like that. So you get to see one of his first victims here. This is a shot taken straight out of the comics, so I love that we have that parallel right there. And again, he says, I vow to kill all gods. Now, what's really interesting right here is you look at the shot we just saw, he was like in some sort of like dark bubble planet thing. Here, he's much more human looking. He has like these markings on his face, and he is in some sort of jungle. Now, there's this big theory going around that in this movie, different from the comics where he is just fully alien, I feel like he is going to be from a different planet, but maybe he starts off with a humanoid looking form, and then because of the corruption of the Necrosword, he then turns into this pale skinned, creepy, disgusting looking monster. And you can kind of see the early stage of this. Maybe this is his home planet, and this is when he first makes that vow to butcher all the gods. And then, of course, Thor's like, oh wow, this is a big threat that now I have to deal with. This July, really right around the corner right there. So we get a great look at the goat boat here with a Tooth Gnasher and Tooth Grinder, Thor's goats from the comics. So that's great. We get to see that Stormbreaker is actually powering the goat boat, and that they are also using the power of the Bifrost, which we saw can be used through Stormbreaker via Infinity War and Endgame. And, Thor, he's trying to flirt with Jane a little bit here, and he's like, oh, you're super impressive and everything. And then we get some of those impressive shots of her in action here, and she just looks great. We get this really terrifying shot of Gorr the God Butcher with, like, I don't know, looks like black blood coming out of his mouth. I love those glowing orange eyes, the wrinkles on his face. And again, I don't know where he is. Is this maybe like the core of the Necrosword, wherever he found it, where maybe it's just like this big ball of black goo floating around in space? Like, I don't know, but it's interesting. You can see that he like stabs into this moon, and it just shatters the whole planet. Now, this could be possibly what he turns into, that black goo bubble that we see earlier, but I'm not completely sure. This could just be another planet that he's just going to. There's a god there, and he butchers the whole planet. Now, I do like this part right here where Jane is talking about how, like, she just took down her first bad guy, and Thor says, you never forget your first. Now, it's interesting how he doesn't say specifically your first bad guy or your first enemy or first villain that you take down, because, obviously she's talking about, the first bad guy she just beat up, but he says you never forget your first, as in his first love, which would be Jane, because he's trying to rekindle that romance in this film. And you get kind of that awkward silence and tension right there, where he's still acting cocky, but she's kind of getting a little uncomfortable. And then we get a great look at Zeus, played by Russell Crowe. Once again, this is the same shot we saw in the teaser trailer. I love this shot right here of Thor from this trailer. Honestly, might use this for the thumbnail. Not really sure yet, but that looks great. I love this right here. How we have this battle between Valkyrie and Gorr the God Butcher. It looks like Valkyrie is actually using the kind of lightning rod that we saw Zeus wield in the teaser trailer. So, with Gorr being a god butcher, a lot of these gods, like Zeus, we've been theorizing, are in this movie kind of just to get butchered by Gorr, and maybe he dies, maybe Zeus dies, and Valkyrie carries on his legacy and his memory by using his lightning rod. And also just this battle between these two is really cool. I got a couple of good shots here with that 1080 quality on the trailer, and it just looks beautiful. Like these still frames right here that I got. We also have great shots of Thor actually in some sort of gladiator arena, battling somebody, kind of the entertainment for Zeus right there. And another disgusting shot of Gorr, but this is weird because he looks like he's in pain again, maybe because the Necrosword is doing this to him, maybe because his body is starting to deteriorate, or maybe this is after like somebody stabs him and he's like dying. You never know. We get a great shot of Nebula and Drax, of course, from the Guardians of the Galaxy, and I love this shot right here. This is another one of my favorite shots because you have who I assume is Thor in Mighty Thor, aka Jane Foster, and they're like going into battle together. You can see it's a black and white shot, and I'll talk more about this black and white in a second, but they're not holding hands, but they've got their pinkies wrapped around each other. And I love this because, first of all, like, if this is at the end of the movie, this like the final battle, maybe they're back together by now. Their love has been rekindled, because this is something I actually do with my girlfriend in real life. Like, if we're walking in the halls at school and like her hands are full, since we can't fully hold hands, we just like hold pinkies. Like, it's super cute and adorable, so I love that we're seeing that here. So that's just a personal connection for me. But then you just have another great, terrifying shot of Gorr the God Butcher. But again, with this weird background where you have everything is black and white, and you just see rocks and stuff just floating around in space, and even Thor is completely in black and white. So that's what makes me think that maybe this is some sort of separate universe or reality or some singular void that has been created that is possibly the origin of the Necrosword and where it originally came from. And then this shot right here, this is the shot I was talking about earlier that, when I was first watching the trailer, I was like, oh, that's just a cool shot of Jane Foster, Mighty Thor, and she's like in action there and everything. But there's so much to be revealed here because, as you can see, there's these golden statues in the background. Now, of course, Taika Waititi likes to do stuff with statues, as we saw in Thor Ragnarok with that big statue of the Contest of Champions with the Hulk on it, Beta Ray Bill, Beast, Man-Thing, and now we have a similar situation here as well, where we're going to go ahead and break down these statues. So first of all, we have this one right here, this kind of skull with the hood, which that is 100% Lady Death, who of course in the comics played a big role in the Infinity Gauntlet storyline, because the whole reason Thanos in the comics was doing his thing with like killing half the universe is because he had a major crush on Death and just wanted to impress her. So it's interesting that we now have this Easter egg to this character in the MCU. Now, when it comes to these other two characters here, I honestly don't know who they are. I've seen some theories on this middle one being like Hulk or Beta Ray Bill or something like that, but I feel like, these other beings here that are represented are like ultra mega level entities, so I don't feel like it would be either one of them. I've seen some people say that this could possibly be Kang the Conqueror, so that's possible there. But when we come over to the other side at the top, or the one to the far right, we have a great look at the living Tribunal, who we just got a cameo appearance of in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So cool to see that we're getting another reference to that character here in Thor Love and Thunder. And then probably my favorite one is that we have in the middle, I can't tell who's over there in the back, but in the middle we do have a look at the Watcher. Now, I'm not sure if this is Uatu the Watcher, but either way, it is a Watcher. Now, like I said, we were introduced to Uatu the Watcher in the animated Marvel Studios What If series, who's kind of like the narrator, the MC of that series. We were introduced to a couple Watchers in live action in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And so now we have a reference to another Watcher here. Again, with these all being like ultra mega level entities. So if you have any theories as to who these two characters here are there as well, then you can let me know in the comments below. But also, this is just a great shot of Jane Foster, Mighty Thor in action as well. Just putting Mjolnir up in the air, just summoning the power of Thor. And then, of course, we flash up the logo, and then we get this post-logo stinger here, where we have more scenes with Zeus. Again, Russell Crowe as Zeus, and he's like, oh, take off your disguise, and he, like, zaps Thor, and all of a sudden, you get to see not only the big Chris Hemsworth muscles, but they're seeing another big part of Chris Hemsworth right there. He's pretty annoyed because, now he's naked in front of all these people, and he's like, oh, you flicked me too hard, and he's like, oopsie. So yeah, this was a funny part. I enjoyed it. It was a nice way to end off the trailer, and then we ended off with this amazing shot right here where I believe, again, this back to the scene with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Thor is in his Ravager uniform, and he is taking down some bad guys and saving the day. So July 8th, Thor Love and Thunder is coming only in theaters, and wow, guys, this I love this. This was a great trailer. I had a lot of fun with it. The only thing missing from it personally was, one of the things I loved about the teaser trailer was, of course, that classic 80s song, Sweet Child of Mine. So it would have been nice if we had another cool 80s song going on here in this trailer. But still, you had the 80s vibes with, just the bright colors and all that stuff, and so much action going on here. I love seeing Jane Foster's Mighty Thor in action here, seeing how big of a role she's really going to play in this film, getting our first real look at Thor with that helmet and that golden armor, and also, of course, our first official real look at Christian Bale as Gorr the God Butcher. So guys, there's a lot to talk about in this trailer, and you can let me know all your thoughts on this trailer and theories in the comments below. But for now guys, thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video and hit the subscribe button so I can keep you up to date on everything goes on in the Marvel life.